Joe Carlos back at Camp Perry for part 3 of tuning AR-15 barrel harmonics. So far, we have tuned barrel harmonics by the position of the flash suppressor, by the amount of torque that we apply to the barrel nut, and by using under-barrel support and varying that along the length of the barrel. There are other techniques that you can use, and they involve things like I have in my hand right here. These are 2 examples. The one on my right hand clamps on to any barrel which is 3/4 of an inch in outside diameter, and luckily for us, most AR-15 barrels are 3/4 of an inch in outside diameter. The other tuning device is threaded. It's made by Harrell's Brothers in Virginia, and luckily enough, and thanks to Joe Carlos, they are making one that has threads that match the threads on our AR-15. These devices, you will probably notice, if any of you are hunters and are familiar with the Browning Boss system, these very much look like ones used on the Browning Boss hunting rifles. And basically they are used to tune harmonics. You can screw them out and in, and there are all kinds of nicely etched graduations on both of them. And you can even use this one. This is the HOHEN, H-O-E-H-N, I believe is how he spells his name. You can even use this on a rifle that has threads, because you just slip it on and cover up the threads, and nobody knows that you've got threads underneath there. So they're pretty adaptable. And you could use them on hunting rifles as well as AR-15s. I don't know that I would particularly want to go through the pucker brush with the larger of the 2, but the smaller one would go through the pucker brush just fine. The way that you work these is not dissimilar to the technique that we've been discussing. I set it at a given graduation, shoot groups with known lots of ammo, change to the next graduation, shoot groups, compare the targets, change to the next graduation, shoot groups and compare the targets. And then once I've found what is my temporary sweet spot, then I can move with less distance and actually fine-tune the thing down to get your best accuracy. The one made by Harrell's Brothers actually will also reduce recoil, so you get the benefit of that as well as hopefully improved accuracy. Following on that idea, after the shootings in Connecticut, the hopelophobes came back out of the closet again and decided that flash suppressors are evil talismans and that we shouldn't have them on our rifles. So many of my customers approached me to make some thread protectors to fit over the threads when they removed their evil flash suppressors from the ends of their barrels. And I did. I made them in stainless, and I made them in a blued finish as well. And as I was doing that, I remembered something that the pistol shooters had been doing with M9 pistol barrels. Pistol shooters are smart hombres. And what they were doing was an M9 needs a bushing to be attached to the front of the barrel, because if you've seen a Model 92 Beretta or an M9, you know that there's no support to the front of the barrel as they come from the factory. And that makes for terrible accuracy. So you need to lock up that front of the barrel in the slide somehow. And they make these bushings, and they screw on to the front of a good match barrel like this KKM. You can see the threads there. And the really smart guys use bushings made of tungsten. Tungsten metal is heavier than conventional steel, and it's stiffer. And the pistol shooters claim that these barrels, which are equipped with these tungsten bushings, shoot much better than if they're equipped with just a standard steel bushing. So I decided to try that while I was making up these thread protectors, and I had a thread protector made in tungsten steel. So I went back out with a dozen or so AR-15 pre-band uppers, and I equipped them first with a standard flash suppressor timed to 6 o'clock, just like you would see in an arms room, shot groups with known lots of ammo. Then I would take that flash suppressor off, and I would replace it with a thread protector like this, standard steel. Shoot groups again with the same lots of ammo, look at those targets, and then I would take my tungsten thread protector and shoot a third bunch of targets. And I did that with about a dozen barrels, and when I analyzed my results, a third of the barrels, like the standard A2 flash suppressor, a third of the barrels shot best with the regular steel substitutes out here on the front end, and a third shot better with the heavy tungsten bushing. So I wondered, why are the pistol shooters getting good results with these tungsten bushings, and I didn't get good results at all. 2/3 of my rifles wanted something other than the tungsten bushings. So I had gone to a great deal of expense to make 2/3 of my barrels shoot worse if I used the tungsten. I got to thinking about the difference, and you'll probably come to the same conclusions that I did. On the pistol barrel, we've got about 20% of it or so occupied with the heavy tungsten bushing, whereas on the rifle barrel, we've got a tiny fraction of the end of the barrel that has that heavy bushing or thread protector on it. So I surmise that we just are not, if we went the whole way down to the front sight and added an extremely long tungsten section, we might get some benefit from it. But I think because we're just out there at the very end and we're not influencing much of the total length of the barrel, that perhaps that's the reason that the tungsten bushing doesn't work. But at any rate, I did want to throw in something that didn't work, because I talked about a whole bunch of things that do work, and I didn't want to give you the false impression that everything I do always works, because sometimes the things that I do don't work, and I report on them, just try to report on them just as accurately as I do things that do work. So I hope I've given you some tools that will help you make better rifles. In my experience, you can cut about 20% off of the group size of most any AR by using one of these techniques that does work. So I hope it's of value to you, and thanks for listening.